Housing affordability has been one of the biggest political issues over the last 2 years, since inflation, mortgage rates and rental prices all started spiralling. The plight of those trying to buy a home or struggling to pay the rent has certainly focused the attention of many politicians. But what about those who don't have a roof over their head at all? The housing crisis has forced many, even some with full-time jobs, to sleep in their cars or tents in local parks. And then there are kids with low or no income at all who just can't stay at home for various reasons, but are left couch surfing or sleeping rough at a critical time when they should be supported and learning life skills. Recent data suggests nearly a quarter of Australians experiencing homelessness are aged between 12 and 24. In the lead up to the budget, homelessness organisations are calling on the government to do more. So what happens when you're homeless? Where do you turn? And what can actually help turn your life around? Welcome to Insiders on Background. Bree Dorset and Tyra Chanhampton are youth ambassadors for a group called Foyer Foundation, an organisation that has changed their lives, and they're here in Parliament this week to, well, ask the government to do more to help the organisation. Bree, Tyra, welcome to both of you. Good to chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Bree, let me go first to you. Tell us as much as you're comfortable about your experience, your journey through homelessness to where you are now.
Yeah, so growing up, I experienced housing instability a few different times, but I think the big moment for me was when I was in my Year 12 VCE studies, holding down a part-time job, trying to get into university, playing team sports, and then thrown into the mix was couch surfing. So yeah, experienced couch surfing for a period of 2 months in already quite a challenging time, and that was when I discovered...
It's an incredibly pressured time,
yeah,
Year 12.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Yeah, especially with the ambition of getting into university, so sitting exams and things like that. So yeah, very grateful to have found the Foyer Foundation during that time.
And I'll come back to how you found them. Tyra, what about your journey?
Yeah, so I actually was part of the out-of-home care system, and I first experienced homelessness when we had nowhere to live, and Arnie had to come and look after us from the Central Coast, moved to Sydney. So we stayed in a refuge for about 3 months.
This is
there.
in Sydney?
In Sydney.
Yeah.
I was going through Year 7, so I was just transitioning out of primary school into high school. So that was the first experience of
homelessness. Which is also a huge time of life. There's a lot going on in that Year 7 age.
Very massive time in my life. I think when you've gone through something so traumatic and then now you have nowhere to go, it was just like, what's happening right now?
What did you do?
So, look, we were lucky. After 3 months, we did find housing, and it was just through Housing Commission, but it was somewhere we can go and call home for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, we also experienced housing instability there, very much overcrowded. I had to share a room with my 2-year-old brother, and it was just way too much going through my HSC. And then that's when my caseworker at the time mentioned Foyer, and I was very, very lucky to move in a year later.
So before we get to Foyer and what it did for you guys, you had a caseworker tell you about it. What about you, Bree? How did you find out about Foyer?
Yeah, I found out through a mutual friend who was at the time living at Foyer Foundation. So I was connected with community service supports, but I experienced housing instability when I was couch surfing. It was 2017, and the Foyer in Shepparton, where I'm from, was built in 2016. So it wasn't pretty new, wasn't well known in the community, which is a big reason why I do a lot of advocacy, just because I think my life would have looked very different during those 2 months if I had have known earlier. So yeah, the services I was linked in with, as well as my school, weren't able to point me in the right direction.
And for people who have no idea about what it's like, are you keen to get that help, or is there any sort of fear or nervousness, reluctance to seek that help, or are you're pretty desperate to grab whatever is available?
Essentially, I mean, no one really wants to start life behind the 8 ball, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think there's a massive stigma around youth and youth housing in particular that, we're just strays, and we're up to no good in our youth, and that has been put on me a lot of times. I'm sure Tyra can relate. That a lot of people go, oh, what did you do to be kicked out of home, when it's like a young person doesn't want that for themselves at all. We need and want stable housing.
Yeah, there's such a stigma around, and I think specifically for me as well, being part of the out-of-home care system, a lot of kids from out-of-home care end up in the cycle of homelessness. And so there was always that, like, this expectation that because I'm from the out-of-home care system, I'm a proud Wiradjuri woman, that I'm already going to be placed, you know, like already had that stigma placed on me.
You'd seen that sort of pattern, I suppose, and stereotype.
Yes.
So you were pretty keen to avoid that and grab this opportunity. So tell us a bit about what Foyer is, Bree.
Yeah, so the foyer I resided at was an Education First youth foyer. So essentially, it's an out-of-home care facility for young people between 16 and 24 that are studying, whether that's an apprenticeship, traineeship, school, university, and it's for those young people who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of.
So what do you get? You get a room?
So
with what?
Yeah, so the Shepparton foyer, as I mentioned, was relatively new in 2016. It was purpose-built, so we housed 40 young people, and we had our own private bedrooms with a bathroom, kitchenette, as well as communal areas designed specifically for building connection and community with the other young people and the staff. I was very nervous going in there. I'm an only child, plus couch surfing, and then realising I'm going to live with 39 other people was a bit daunting. But it was so secure. And
did you keep going to school? You're in year 12 at this point.
I was, yeah. So I actually was able to finish my year 12 VCE as well as sit my exams and get above my clearly in for university. And that was game changer for me, just because at the time the support I was receiving from my school was, you're experiencing quite a complex challenge right now. Perhaps it's best for you to not do your exams and to, you know...
So they were suggesting maybe not this year.
Yeah, come back when you're ready. Yeah, and so it was really disheartening to not have that opportunity from school, but that's where the Foyer Foundation's so different. They see young people for who they are and their strengths rather than a young person with that stigma.
So do you have someone there at Foyer in the setting there in Shepparton? I mean, obviously you've got the room and that sort of support, but someone helping you with the school side of things, the skills that you're going to need to get on and finish year 12?
Yeah, so we have youth development workers and we're all assigned one, and they support us. We meet, weekly or fortnightly, and we're also offered a certificate 1 in developing independence, and that really changed the game for me. So that looks at things like your education, employment, civic participation, which was a big thing for me, building connection in my community because it was such a small country town, independent living skills, finances and budgeting, things like that. So it it not only allowed me to have the basic necessities of a safe place to call home, but it gave me those skills to really build a future where I could take ownership and thrive.
And was it a similar experience for you, Tara?
Yes, very, very similar. I think the foyer I was at in Sydney has a more of a focus around kids who have exited the out-of-home care system. Right. So it's 18 to 24. That's the age bracket. And I think for me, it was very good because I was going through my first year at uni and I'm the first person to go to uni in my family. So I had no idea No, thank you. Had no idea what to expect. And I mean, even the simplest things of like enrolling for classes, like where I should go if I need support. Foyer, your youth development coach will sit there with you for however long you need and just go through every single part. And I think also scholarships was such a scary thing for me.
Applying for scholarships.
Applying. I think that was the biggest game changer for me, is like accessing that. And my youth development coach sat with me and went through every question, wrote me a beautiful reference. It's just the little things that, like, as a young person, you're like, what is happening? And then you can just have that role model sit down with you and simply explain it.
So where are you both at now, Tara? Just tell us what you're up to.
So I'm currently in my 4th and final year at university.
What are you studying?
I'm studying a Bachelor of Social Work with honours.
Right.
I now also work as a caseworker at a small ACCO, and I started there end of last year after my 3rd year placement, and it is incredible. I work with Aboriginal women and families who need support around child protection, the criminal justice system. It's such a advocacy role.
Yeah.
And then I also do some work with the Foyer Foundation.
And what
Yes.
about you, Brie?
Yeah, like Tyra, I'm the first person in my family to finish school and get into university as well. So yeah, I've transitioned from the little country town Mooroopna near Shepparton through to Melbourne. So I'm in the big smoke now, studying a Bachelor of Politics, Philosophy and Economics. I work for a social enterprise known as HOME, Homelessness of Melbourne Incorporated Enterprise. So I'm the monitoring and evaluations person there. So supporting young people, you know, who have walked through the paths that
You've
I've
got the lived
gone
experience
through.
that you
Yeah.
can bring to that role.
Yeah.
So obviously you're here in Canberra, here in Parliament House, to call for more support for Foyer. What are you after?
Yeah, we're really looking to get some support behind the foundation. We'd love to see further 10 foyers invested so we can house over 3,000 young people, you know, just like Tyra and myself. Because at the end of the day, housing, it's a human right.
Well,
Yeah.
just on that, right, because there's a lot of demands on government to do all sorts of things, and we do hear a focus on homelessness, certainly from time to time, perhaps not as much as some people might like, but looking at solutions is something that often is missing, I think, from some of the debate. What would you say to the Prime Minister, Tyra, to other politicians about homelessness and where the focus needs to be?
I honestly think, like, for me, Foyer's changed my life. Like, I know for a fact I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for my experience at a Foyer. And so many young people deserve that opportunity to have a safe, stable home, somewhere you can call your community and just thrive. And I think for me, if I was speaking to the Prime Minister, I would really urge him to push for more Foyers out there so we can provide safe and stable housing to young people.
Yeah, and Brie, a similar message, I'm guessing?
Yeah, very similar. I think I, as a small town country girl experiencing, you know, homelessness and housing instability, I think it's amazing to see a Prime Minister that's come from social housing. And I think that, you know, I definitely wouldn't have found the path that I'm on now without the support of the Foyer Foundation. Funnily enough, I've actually written a letter to the Prime Minister, so would love to absolutely meet with him and speak more about my lived experience, because I feel there's obviously some synergies. But, you know, there's just that wraparound support and capacity building, and why Foyer works is it intervenes with those generational cycles. It breaks those cycles. We become contributing members to society, you know, sitting right here in Canberra, Tyra and I, at Parliament House. And, you know, these opportunities, the potential is in other young people that just haven't had the opportunities as well.
Well, good luck to you both, and look, thanks so much for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. Good to chat.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having us.
David. Thanks.
Making us all feel very excited about being here.